So the wonderful June Slater, everybody. And today, what are we going to talk about, June? We're just going to break down politics, aren't we? We're going to just chew the fat, let's say. Yeah?
Yeah. You're pretty similar to me, actually, Bruce. I've got really disheartened with how people in the political bubble talk down to people who are not involved in politics. So I started off doing this so that I could research what was going on and then explain in layman's terms, simplistic terms, say, look, that's not what they mean when they say this. What they mean when they say this is, as an example, when Tony Blair said during lockdown he was embedded in governments across the world, that phrase would just mean nothing to people. It's just a phrase. But when he actually says embedded in governments across the world, he means members of the Tony Blair Institute are in the civil service or even in government. Embedded is a massive word. So if you can explain things like that, people get a better understanding of what's going on. And as we've said...
Well, I think that's where we could start, isn't it? Because I think we were having a pre-discussion before we obviously started this up. People don't understand the size and scale of politics, do they? I think what people see is Keir Starmer and the Health Secretary, the Defence Secretary. You see these people in Parliament at the biggest amount, the 650 elected MPs. And that's what they think it is. That's it. They kind of ignore I mean, how many Lords are there? 900? I think there's 900 Lords, isn't there? There's more Lords than there are actual House of Commons representatives. Then you've got the councils. What, 21,000 elected councillors going to the councils? And if you cascade down to the parish, another 100,000. We're not even including the civil service and the NGOs and the banks and all these other organisations, the World Economic Forum, the EU. You start bringing all those situations. Obviously, we just focus even locally. If people look locally, paying attention to their by-elections and stuff, and I think that's where a lot of people don't realise they're not even at the base level of what they need to understand. Who is your parish councillors? Who sits on your parish council? Who are your elected council MPs in your area? Who's dealing with what? Because so many people are oblivious to all that until a general election comes around. And they make a rash decision based on what my granddad voted for or what people in my area vote. We're working class, so we have to vote Labour.
Yeah.
But Labour have represented the working class for how long since Blair? Let's be honest. Yeah.
I think the reason I've been promoting Reform Party a lot in my videos, and people think it's bias, but it's not bias. I made a conscious decision when I saw what they were doing at council level, because like you, politics is much bigger than I anticipated. Bigger, I mean, as in personnel and as in people with effective input. The permanent undersecretaries are running the country. The government are just the front men. They're the people that come on stage and entertain you, but the real work is done by the permanent undersecretaries, and a lot of the time they run roughshod over the ministers, and people don't get it. So when I saw Reform doing this council thing, really going for it and interviewing 1,000 candidates in the first round, I started looking at what they were doing, and I thought, my God, this could work. This could be infiltration from the ground up, almost like termites. You know, I've seen pictures of termites getting into homes in South America with the little teeny tiny ants that start nibbling away at floorboards and joists, and then all of a sudden the floor falls in. That's what Reform are doing, and that's a simplistic way of putting it. And I thought that the councillors could do with some help with social media, so I started friending them and explaining how to get the best from social media. So that they could get their message out better, because if they could get control of a couple of councils, I mean, at that stage, that's all they were.
10 now, isn't it? 10 they've got so far?
I think it's 12.
Is it 12, is it? Okay,
12.
Perfect. Yep.
And at the time when they won all the elections, they got, I think, 700 candidates. Now it's up to 900 and odd. People are defecting all the time. And that's another thing where this defection doesn't bother me, because what we've got to remember is we've all defected. Even if you've gone away to apathy, you've defected, because at one time or another you were either a Labour voter, you abstained, or you voted Tory or Lib Dem. And
Yeah.
it's all been reshuffled because we've all been let down so very, very much by every single party. The Lib Dems let the post office down. The blood scandal. This is all politics. This isn't a separate issue from politics.
Well, the Lib Dems actually ostracised a lot of their member base in 2010, when they coalitioned with the Tories in 2010, but it was around about 2012, wasn't it? It was the Health and Social Care Act, and they backed it, didn't they? And they made it the Lib Dems made it a manifesto policy that they wouldn't interfere with the NHS, and they did, didn't they? And I think a lot of people turned their back on them with that one.
And the other thing with the Lib Dems, after the coalition, they rather enjoyed the power and they didn't leave. So the Tory party got infiltrated with very liberalised left-wing thinking. Someone said to me when we were back in Boris in 2019, if you vote for Boris, you'll get more socialism. And I thought they were bonkers. Bearing in mind, if you wanted Brexit, you didn't get a choice. He was the only one offering it, so you had to vote for Boris. But they were right, because he is very socialist. He's married a socialist woman. His father's socialist. When I say socialist, I don't care if they're voting Lib Dem. It's socialism. It's spreading it out, and it's not conservatism. And when you see people defecting...
And that's the difference, isn't it? And let's touch on that for a second. People don't understand the difference between a Tory, a big C conservative, i.e. the party, and conservatism. Massive difference, isn't there?
Huge. And a lot of the people that are defecting were small C conservatives. They saw their party going in a direction. And I said to one MP, I won't say who it is because she's pretty famous, and I said to her, well, what do you do? She said, well, what can I do? If I leave, I've got no say. This was before Nigel Farage had come back to politics. She said, if I leave, I'd just become, I can't do anything. If I stay, I can work from the inside. But they crucified her. So, but these are people who believe in conservatism, not the party. The thing that, this is why I complain about Jenrick. Jenrick's saying all the right things. It's very inspirational. But I'm sorry, I watch him and I think to myself, hang on a minute, you could have done this when you were in. You could, all these things that you're mentioning, you could have done this. You could have inspired your cabinet. You could have stood
But it's always the fix after the fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've always got the solution afterwards, and they sit there, and I think that's what frustrates a lot of people now, and why people have tuned off of the Conservative Party, is they had 14 years. They were given 14 years. I have to admit, I actually thought what disappointed me was when Rishi Sunak came in. He wasn't first pick, was he? They didn't want, or I think he might have been first pick, but the membership obviously got Truss in, and they did everything they could to get her out as quick as possible. The bank, we know, the bank were involved in that. That whatever was declared about the economy never really transpired, did it? It was kind of accusations that got her out. Nothing she actually physically did. It was the proposal more than anything. And the funny thing is Labour have actually enacted something way worse than what she ever did, yet are still sitting in government. No one criticises that. However, when Sunak got in, I think he showed his true colours the last 3 months before he left. Because he, for me, it seemed like a weight came off his shoulder and he suddenly said, actually, I'm going to expose this. And I remember him saying, Labour are going to put the taxes up. He was really going hard on Keir Starmer. But Starmer stood there because he knew full well Labour were getting into power. Everybody. You knew this, I knew this. Everyone who knows anything about politics knew that Labour were getting into power because it's just typical British voting for the last 100 years. Bounce between the pair of them.
Yeah.
So Starmer didn't have to say anything. He just kept quiet. Sunak was calling it out, but because of the way the Tories had been, no one was believing him because they were sick to death of them. But the funny thing is when you look at what Sunak was saying 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before the general election, he's been right about everything.
Yeah.
He absolutely was calling them out, but no one paid attention.
The trouble is, I think with someone like Rishi, he's not a strong person. He's articulate.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad person. I think there's a lot of people that aren't bad people. It doesn't mean just because they're in the Tory party they're bad people. But the thing is this, the Tories have an agenda, and that's power. The Tories want power for power's sake. So if you're saying everything that you're saying now and you're still in the party, then you are a Tory. You're putting party before country. Because the thing is this, let's just take an imaginary situation. Let's imagine the Tories that are in seats now, like Robbie Moore is a good MP for Keighley. Imagine if they crossed the floor to reform. What
Yeah.
message would that send to the public?
I
to
say the
media?
same. Do you know Nick Timothy, my
Yeah,
MP in West Suffolk? He's brilliant. He's adamantly against digital ID. He's been calling the grooming scandals out. I've even emailed him and said, mate, if you defect to Reform UK, you retain that seat. Because he
yeah,
will lose his seat, I think,
yeah,
here in West Suffolk. People won't vote. It's a very strong conservative area I come from. Very strong, very middle class. It will take a battle from Reform to get that seat off him. But he, again, going back to what we said about defections, he is someone I would absolutely welcome in, because I don't think he represents the current Tory
no,
agenda. I think
no,
he's speaking out on the side because he's not very well known. But if you go and look at Hansard, go and look at any parliamentary TV stuff that he's done or any debates he's got involved in, he's very Reform. He seems like
yeah,
a Reform, like Danny Kruger. He
yeah.
seems like a Reform politician.
Yeah, and the thing is, just imagine this fake scenario of the all cross the floor. So suddenly,
Yeah.
Reform have 100 and odd MPs without even cutting a sweat. And what does that say to the media? What does that say to the country? That says to the country, I mean it. That says to the country, I'm prepared to take a gamble by crossing the floor because I know my party isn't genuine. The Tories are not being genuine. I know quite a few people that are closely connected to the Tories who know they're over. You know, these are lifelong Tory, influential Tories who know it's over. But unfortunately, it's like a cult, you know.
Yes.
They're in it. They can't believe after over 100 years that this party is in the
June,
death
it's
battle.
300 years. Let's be honest about it. It's 300
God.
years.
They're the
They've
most,
been in. So obviously, for the first 200 years of elected parliament, we had the Tories. They were known as the Tories for the first 125 years.
Yeah.
Then changed name to the Conservatives. We had the Whigs, which were originally
Yeah.
the Liberal Democrats. Then they changed name to the Liberals. So those two political parties
yeah.
ran the country for 200 years together, doing exactly what Labour and the Conservatives have done for the last 100. So the Tories/Conservatives have been in Parliament for 300 years. And that's institutionalised. That's through the Lords, through the councils, and that's what I don't think people understand when I've heard people accuse Reform UK of being the uniparty and the establishment. I'm like, all you're demonstrating to me is you have no concept or understanding of what this is. You don't realise how big it is. You don't realise how, I mean, literally the country has blue veins because of them. Because I think they've held 171 years of elected parliament. That's insane.
Yeah. And this is what I mean when they try and say, this is what I try and say about Nigel Farage. During the 2024 election, 4 million people voted for reform because Nigel came back. I think Lee Anderson would have won his seat. I think the others were unknown. Rupert Lowe wasn't known. He had 38,000 followers when I first started messaging Rupert to help raise his profile. Got on with him really well. Obviously, it's not him running his social media account. Everybody thinks it is because he responds like it is, but it's not. Nevertheless, he put some good stuff out, and I thought, oh, he's okay, this bloke. But I had to write his name down to remember who he was, and then he got bigger and bigger, and then the Elon Musk thing made him
Blew him up a bit.
Yeah, blew him up a bit. I like what he says, but those men, none of them, James, Tice, Rupert, Lee Anderson would have been the only one that would have won. And Nigel brought something back, which is hope. Because even during lockdown, I was calling these small parties, because I've put an awful lot of effort in trying to get small parties to work together as a collective. And I even arranged meetings with ADF party run by Tech Kong and Time party run by a guy who's now died, Lawrence Fox with Reclaim. Reform wouldn't take it on board at all. And I actually slagged Reform off quite openly on my Twitter page and said, but who are Reform? Because they were canvassing for money all the time. I said, I wouldn't give anybody my money till I knew they had something on offer. There's nobody got anything on offer because they can't become a government. We need to get someone to become a government. So I actually said on my Twitter page, and who are Reform? They're going nowhere like the rest of you, except they've got their own bus. Because I was annoyed. But the thing is, there was a cataclysmic shift when Nigel returned.
Yes.
Because he knows he's long in the tooth now. He's too old to bugger about. He's not in his 40s, his early 60s.
But
He's
he's been in
come back.
politics for 40 years, hasn't he? 40
Yeah.
years, I think.
And
Yeah.
25 to 30 years getting abuse every day.
Yeah.
So there he is. Everybody who's defaulted on the politics and not made anything of themselves blames him. I mean, this Robert Kilroy Silk, he affected his career. No, he didn't. Kilroy Silk walked away. Kilroy Silk was already famous. He was a former Labour MP who ended up
Yes,
a
he was,
TV
yeah.
presenter. He was way more famous than Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage had no effect at all on Kilroy Silk. It's just more bad mouthing because people are deliberately stirring up the pot for all sorts of reasons. But the thing with Nigel Farage coming back, that's how they got the
Galvanised people, didn't it, I
yeah.
think?
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they got 5 seats, I think it was. And people were like, oh my God, this is really happening. So there they are, they're rumbling along with the 5 MPs, and Rupert Lowe turned out to be an excellent ad. Now, at that time, Ben Habib lost and David Bull lost. They both lost, they didn't get voted in. Now, that was the second time for Ben.
Well, David was my constituency.
Oh,
so he
okay.
lost to Nick Timothy. And the funny thing is, right, I obviously have nothing against any of these guys. I think David will run here again, but now he's the chairman. I don't know if he should, because I think he should be focusing on that personally.
Yeah.
And they should select someone else. Like I said, I would like to see them get Nick Timothy, because this is the thing. When we're going back to what we were talking about conservatives, people have this stigma around ex-conservative coming into reform. They're just conservative 2.0, and I don't think they get what you're saying, and I understand it. I don't think they get how people. I've always maintained you should be looking at party policy first. You never look at the leader. Like a lot of people call reform. Let's just go back to this. I would say in 2024, when reform got the 5 MPs, Nigel Farage was reform and reform were Nigel Farage. Do you believe that a year and a half on?
Oh,
because
no.
I don't think they are now.
No.
I think that's changed. Even though he's the man on the stage, you're always going to have your front man, be it Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, Ed Davey when he was leader of the Labour Party, and then you've got Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats. Then you've got the Greens, etc., etc. But a single person, isn't the 650 parliamentary candidates, isn't the 10,000 councillors. And I think what we need to encourage people to do, and one thing that annoys me about the Advance UK turnaround, or people saying, oh, I've lost faith in Nigel, I've lost faith in what reform stand for, then why don't you stick around, become a member, and influence what the party do? Because that's the point of being a member, isn't it? If you're committing to be a member, you're saying that you want your voice heard.
The thing I don't understand, a political party, setting up a political party is like running a business. Look at what Mon Habib's done with Advance UK. He's not risked anything yet. He'll only put his 100 grand in when the public put 300 in, which is, I think he's got past that point. So he's got other people's money to play with while he bumbles along with this new party. It's not a party yet, anyway. It's a limited company.
And can I just say that neither me or June are against Advance or against Ben, but we just don't need that now, do we?
No. What I can't understand, all this talk was drip-fed from Ben on his TV slots about reform not being democratised, and that made it out to be a big thing to people. It doesn't matter to me and you. It doesn't matter. But
it actually is now. That's the funny thing, because I've started because they've got an elected chair, they've got an elected board of chairmen. Darren Grimes, obviously, as we know, is one.
Yeah.
Guywan came back, which is he's a very, very good guy in there. And they've recently put out the membership where they asked people to give points on policy, didn't they? They were asking. I submitted 3 points of policy that were very important to me in education, which is my background. Yeah. So I submitted these. So they're asking the membership how they want the future of the party to run. So that's democracy. So everything that Ben was accusing them of, he jumped ship a little bit too quick, didn't he? But
he did.
The thing sticks, doesn't
it? People think he was sacked. He wasn't sacked. He walked away. He was reshuffled. He and David Bull suffered the same fate.
And it was off the back of the seat loss, wasn't it? It was because he didn't win his seat, wasn't it?
He didn't win his seat. David Bull didn't win his seat. So Nigel wanted people with a seat sat next to him, if you know what I mean. And they were.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would have done the same. David Bull didn't take the hump. He hung around and he's ended up party chair. Ben walked away and has never stopped bad-mouthing reform ever since. Now, if you wanted to make a difference in politics, how many people have worked in a company where they didn't like the boss or they didn't get on with the boss? You just put up with it and do your own thing. And Ben could have had an awful lot to offer, especially he was advised to stand in a coastal seat. They said the party wanted him to stand in a coastal seat. But Wellingborough is quite handy for where he lives in Fulham. It's about 50 minutes on a train. I can understand
it's London, yeah.
I can understand the attraction. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to be in reform, then as a duty to the country, the only one that's going to have a chance of this next election, people think it's ages off. It's not.
I think it's 27, my dear. I think it'll be 2027.
I think it'll be 27. Yeah. And you've only got to see... What I can't understand is, why can't people see what I see? Which is, hang on a minute, you're saying it's a one-man...
I can, June. I can see it.
Yeah, it's a one-man band party. No, it isn't. They've got 600 and they've vetted 1,100 it was altogether, councillors. They had to vet them, interview them, search their social media, get staff on board. As Gawain said to me, they've gone from a corner shop to Morrison's overnight. They've hit the ground running and nobody's given this party time to get shipshape and organised. And during that time, the council elections have been looming up. So what have they done? Completely sensible. Vet council candidates, get them fielded. They started off when I started helping. I'm not a member, by the way, and I'm still a neutral voice, believe it or not. But I was helping the councillors with the social media to get their message out because they had a lot to say and it was very sensible stuff. And these are ordinary people. This isn't about...
Yes, I think that's what we have to pick up on is it...
This is
I think
you out there.
Yes, and reform, for me at the moment, maybe you could argue the Greens possibly do, Workers' Party potentially as well, but they're one of the big political... They are a big political party now. I think we had this chat the other day, didn't we? For me, Reform are top of the championship. And we've got Liberal, Labour, we've got they're your Manchester United, Liverpool, your top six in the Premiership or whatever. They're up there. Reform are knocking on the door of the Championship. They're going to win it because I think the council is that next year. I think they're going to smash the councils. That elevates them into the Premiership. Yeah. And then you've got Advance sitting down in the Conference Leagues. They're not they're not even remotely close to where Reform are.
No.
And again I want to reiterate, I have no issue with Advance UK. I think they have a place at the table around 2034 if people back them and if they get their act together. But they've got 10 years. They need 10 years. Reform have had 10.
And the thing is, they haven't done anything. They've got no idea how difficult it is to do what Reform have actually done. I'm amazed Reform have done it. I wasn't particularly pro.
I'm shocked, actually, yeah.
I cannot believe the success they've had. Now, where's that success come from? It's come from normal people who've had enough, they're up to here, and they've decided to stand for the council. I mean, I've gone to a few meetings now and I've met these people, and it's like talking to yourself. These are people who are just living their life, trying to bring their kids up, and they come under enormous pressure when they stand for council, because one guy who was standing was threatened that they wouldn't be able to get his second child into the same school as his first child, because he was a Reform candidate.
And
they try all sorts. This is dirty fighting, and we've got to get ordinary people to stand up to this, and it's not easy. Look at Sarah Pochine, how she's been.
Well, we were speaking about this, weren't we? Because it's recently. Yeah, I posted it on my Facebook today. We were talking about Sam, the recent elected councillor in May for Reform UK. He's been coming under a lot of pressure from Labour. He's been bullied and harassed, really, and it's all been recorded. It's openly seen. I've put a video out today where you can see him, and I speak to him on WhatsApp. He's got ADHD. He has problems. He's just a normal guy that put his name in the hat. He's been elected to a council position, and they haven't even given him 3 or 4 months to learn. And you know this. Yeah. Any career you go into, if you're starting something new, and whatever you go into. When I went into education from construction, I needed a year to understand how curriculum works, about how the system works, how MVQs work, how assessing works, how IQA works inside that. There's so many caveats to what you need to understand. But it seems to me like these elected got their feet too comfortably under the table Labour, Tory, Liberal politicians are absolutely condemning reform, going back to what you say, because their gravy train's under threat.
Exactly. Because these people that are going into politics now via reform, there's no way they're doing this for what they can get out of it, because what they're getting out of it at the moment is absolute abuse. I get abuse. Nobody wants it in their life. I don't want to be called some old hag, a fascist. I don't want that in my life. But I have to continue because I'm a conduit, I believe, for people who choose to follow me, to explain politics in terms that makes them realise they haven't got it wrong. So if you're suspicious of your current candidate, your current Tory or your current Labour Party because you think they're not doing it right, you're correct. They aren't doing it right and you do deserve better. And that's what I try to do. And it's not favouritism backing reform. It's nothing to do with that. It's looking at... I'm a businesswoman. I'm retired.
It's backing a winning horse, isn't it, effectively? And someone that you think, June, as well, is filled with people, large majority. I don't care what people say about ex-Tories and ex-Tory councillors or ex-Conservative councillors. I did a bit of a study on this the other day. It's 4% currently in Reform's ranks. If you count their councillors, their vetted councillors, and you count the parliamentary MPs, 4% of Reform's councillors, parliamentary MPs are ex-Conservatives. 4%. I would say 20 is acceptable.
Yeah.
If not, maybe 25.
The catalyst is wherever they come from, if they're ex-Tory or ex-Labour, they have to look at the manifesto and the goals of reform and adhere to those before they can join. They have to. Of course they do. You don't go to you don't change your job and go to your new job and say, right, I'm working for Joe Soap Enterprises. I used to work for Fred Soap and I'm going to make...
I'm doing what they did.
...work like Fred Soap did. You're not going to do that. You have to start conforming to what your new job...
But isn't it funny that most people in life would have that same view and opinion, but when it comes to politics, their view gets shifted and it's like, oh, well, if you go... Well, the Tories were terrible for 14 years. If you recruit... If let's just say, for example, Reform get 325, well, they need, let's say 330 seats, and 75 of those are ex-Conservatives. Who cares?
Nobody
because
cares.
The majority of the party is still backed by working class people, and it's a collective opinion. It's a collective opinion around the policy that they've written black and white.
And the other thing that's got a value to it is having people with experience within Westminster, especially at ministerial level, because the civil service will run rings round a load of newbies. If they're all just newbies, the civil service are experienced, they're powerful, they're sneaky, they're underhand, and they're most of the reason why we're in a mess. You know, there's the winter fuel.
They're the maggots of the establishment, aren't they? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. They are. Yeah.
The winter fuel allowance was what they call a hobby horse idea, punted out by the Treasury. Now, they tried it before with Rishi Sunak. What they do, they have all these things, they call them hobby horse ideas, they come off a shelf. Furlough was another one. It was off the shelf, it was already drafted up by a civil servant. So they bring the idea out and they go, what do you think of that? And Rishi Sunak said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking the winter fuel allowance off pensioners. So they rolled it out again when she came in, Lego head. And Lego head, oh, that's a good idea. And they took it. These civil servants,
because it's the same civil service, isn't it? And this is where people become ill-informed, isn't it? It's the same 10,000 people in the civil service that are feeding the parliamentary MPs that are sitting in Parliament. Doesn't matter where they are, Liberal, Tory or Labour. There's the same set of people underneath it, the same rot underneath it.
But civil service doesn't change when the government changes. And Tony Blair, he didn't just run the country, he changed the civil service. Professor Ferguson, who engineered his modelling during lockdown, he's a Blairite. Ollie Robbins, who was advising on Brexit, another Blairite, who's now an advisor to the Labour Party. These people are not party loyal. They have their own agenda. I believe
it's a bigger agenda, isn't it? Yeah.
I think a lot of them are cultural Marxists. And
Yes.
I think that Blairite is a closet cultural Marxist. I think most of them are probably members of the Fabian Society, and they're the
Which has been,
undercurrent.
I think yourself and me have done some pieces on that
Yeah,
recently. Again, and this again goes back to when we talk about the establishment, the political establishment, we've so far discussed parishes, councillors, parliament, the lords, NGOs and the civil service. Then you've got the think tanks, like the Fabian Society, the 1922 committee. We're not even talking about them, and there's 100 of them
yeah,
that are all feeding these people into this system.
yeah,
And they group that. It's effectively political grooming, isn't it? Is what they do.
yeah, yeah. And I think what we can do now, this is an excellent opportunity. In fact, it's a golden opportunity. And Keir Starmer, in an obtuse way, is the best thing that's happened to this country because he's opened it up. He's made people's jaws drop and think, what is going on? Rather than thinking, the Tories kept us just comfortable enough to roll our eyes and shrug our shoulders and get on with it. Oh, well, that's it. That's
Because
how
they're
it is.
more schooled in it, aren't they? They're better schooled in it because
Yeah.
of their political history, because of the institutions that back them up, and because of the meat grinder that churns these MPs out that represent the Tories. They've had 171 years of experience in Parliament. Liberals have been 100. Labour have held cabinet on 8 occasions since 1923. Only completed 4 terms. This will be their 8th. So if they don't complete this, they'll have only completed 4 full terms and 4 half terms.
Yeah. So
So that shows how bad they are.
Yeah, and if you think that's a party that's got nearly 300 staff in head office, and the Tories, I think, currently have about 158, they used to have 250 odd, and you've got Nigel Farage and his team, who, when they were elected, had 5 people and 4 volunteers. How the hell are you supposed to do everything you're supposed to do? Ben will be getting a taste of it now as he's setting up. And, he's the least democratic party because his college, which I think is a really pretentious name to use, is just 6 or 7 old blokes in a WhatsApp group.
I actually reset. So, yeah, obviously, I think probably like you, when it all happened, one of the first things I did was research advance. And I did it again the last couple of days. I'd heard Ben talking. Again, have nothing against Ben.
No.
But I think he's a very good speaker. I do agree with you. I think a lot of it came as a bit more of his ego got bruised. And obviously the way he left the party, I want to be the man. I want to go and do something. And he picked up this backing, obviously, from Tommy. Again, no problems with Tommy. Tommy's done some great things in what he's done. But they've kind of shifted. It's more of political activism, isn't it? It's an activist party. I think it's very reminiscent of what UKIP originally were, or the independent. Was it the independent? The independent. There was an actual independent party, wasn't there, at one point?
Yeah, there was.
Very similar to that. It's kind of like we don't fit in with them, or we've been removed for whatever reason, or and we're going to just go and affiliate with this. And I personally believe at the moment a lot of the support Advance are getting are from people who are very political activism rather than understanding how the system actually works.
The thing, there was a guy this morning saying, "Oh, should Rupert Lord join Advance UK?" It was a perfectly rational post, but I looked at it. He's got an Advance UK leader photograph, cover photo on his Twitter, and then his cover photo, his profile picture is a picture of Edward Woodward with a firearm with a silencer on it. So I looked at it and I just thought, oh, please. I said, if you want to be taken seriously, try a picture of yourself without a firearm. And people hiding behind flags and suits of armour. I understand the message they're trying to convey, but, once you put your face out there and your name out there, it comes with 100 times more abuse than a suit of armour and some fake name like Lord Lancelot or whatever you're calling yourself. And the thing is, I don't think people who can say so quickly after Reform had done so well, and all this disdain, all this mistrust came after 2 men, extremely wealthy men, decided to spit the dummy out. Rupert Lowe went to the Tory boy, Andrew Pearce, first, calling Farage a messiah or words to that effect. There's no going back from that if you've just got your seat, because nobody would have got those seats if Nigel Farage hadn't come back. And it's not that he's a messiah; he's a known name that's put his.
Yeah, he's a democratically elected MEP. He's been around for a long time. He's been in the system as much as he didn't. He missed the jump a few times on being elected as an MP. He's always been beating the same drum. You can never take that away from Farage. He's never ever shifted on what he was. He's never been deportation, get everyone out of the country, because everyone knows what that narrative brings. Yeah. And he's never ever, he's always been anti-Brexit. He's always been anti-Europe. Christ, you've only got to back a look at the videos of him when he was a parliamentary MP there, a member of the European Parliament. He'd stand up there and he stood for Britain all day long. He was beating the United Kingdom's drum year after year after year after year.
And with that came a lot of abuse. Banned from restaurants in Brussels, eggs thrown at him. He's had to pay for his own security. And during this difficult time where we've got people calling people fascists and attacking people, the government have decided to deplete Nigel Farage's security. I mean, this is what makes
George Finch the other day. George Finch been attacked, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Did you hear about it? Yeah. And they're saying, and I don't think anyone can disagree with it, it's off the back of the rhetoric coming out of the Liberals, Labour and the Green Party.
I did a video yesterday, a quick two or 3 minutes, saying that these people in power have to remember something. Just because Keir Starmer was voted in by Labour voters, it doesn't mean he's supposed to just suit them. He's supposed to represent the country. That's all of us. That's people who voted for someone else. You're supposed to still have our interest. You're supposed to be a bigger man and still have the interests of people like me who don't agree with you at heart. That's what you're supposed to do. And calling us
it's the working majority of the country, isn't it, June? It's the working class. The working class make up 25 million people of society, which is the backbone as well of the voting core, and they've turned their backs on them.
Absolutely. And it's abysmal to think that at a party conference, you've got someone calling members. That's why Nigel Farage stood up to it. He takes the heat. They call it him every day of the week. He just takes it. He's got broad shoulders, but he stood up for his members because it's not right. I know an elderly relative of mine who joined Reform. She's never been a member of the party. She's not politically active. She's sick of the way the country's going, worried about leaving her money to her grandchildren that's not going to be there because they're going to tax her out of it. And she's voting for change. That is not fascism. That is someone who's... No. Nigel Farage has given her some hope. And that's what they say. And I think it's foolish to have not given Reform more time to get some wool on the back. You know, this business, I call it personality politics. Oh, I don't like him now, I like him. Well, that's not going to get us anywhere because it doesn't matter how nice or how well someone sounds on Twitter. It's a tweet at the end of the day. And
unfortunately, that's the society we live in today, isn't it? It's a product of... you know, 2003, 2004, social media comes out. We get Facebook. We start to get Snapchat, things like that. We get MySpace, and gradually it's cascaded. I personally, if you remember back before the general election, I think it shew, very Suffolk of me to say that, it shew how out of touch the Tories, Labour, Lib Dems and Greens were because, and I think it aired on, they've got so comfortable in their political... let's call it royalty. Like it didn't matter. We'll just pick our bags up and move them over to the other side. We'll just shift. That's all we're going to do. We'll still maintain a similar number. Yeah, some people are going to lose some seats and they'll gain some and we'll lose some. We'll get them back in 4 years' time or 5 years' time and we'll shift them over. And that's all they do. They just go backwards and forwards from one side to the other. But then, obviously, Reform come along and... it tipped... Well, I can't even remember where I was going with this. Well, I do this all the time.
Isn't it? It tipped the thing is, Farage returned, they got 5 seats, 4 million votes. How do you compete with the system? This is you've got to look at Farage as that ship that breaks the ice in the polar ice cap. It's got to break through before the other ships can follow. And that's where I see Advance UK. If you don't allow Reform to win because you've got some chip... You know, Tommy's annoyed, rightly so, because Nigel Farage has misquoted him, unfortunately.
Yes. I understand that. I fully understand that.
But it's bigger than that, what we're fighting. We're actually fighting communists, and they're in number 10. They're actually in. They won. We've got to get our head around that. They did win. And that's why Starmer's taken any notice of us, and he's flying off 27 to 28 trips abroad. And that's why his first two visitors of any importance were Bill Gates and Larry Fink, because communism needs corporatism to survive. Communism needs big government to survive. They complement each other. The little people are squeezed out because legislation is created. The difference between a capitalist and a corporatist. A capitalist. I'm a capitalist. I've worked for myself all my life since I was 24.
The funny thing is, June, is I would say, I think so I have this opinion, right? I don't believe in, and actually Ben Habib said the same thing. I don't believe left-wing and right-wing politics, for me, died in 1997. It's a 20th century notion. We have globalism and nationalism now. That's how I believe people sit. You can seed socialism and capitalism into those because they sit in either side. Because I think everybody has a bit of socialism in them and a bit of capitalism in them. Because I don't think the funny thing is you see these people out there who openly declare we want socialism, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, right, so ditch all your tech because that supports capitalism. You're supporting capitalist corporations. So ditch your smartphone, ditch all your stuff, go and live your frugal life. And go and do your protest if you're extreme left orientated, and that's how you see society should be, and everyone should be giving people money, propping up the benefit claimants and all that sort of stuff. Where are you funding that from? And when you ask them, they can't give you an answer because they say, we'll tax the rich. I'm like, but you're not funding the rich anymore because you've removed capitalism. So if you're not funding the rich, who's paying for it? Well, they're still rich anyway. We can just tax all the big companies, but they're set up in Monaco. So who are you taxing? They don't ever give you an answer. Because fundamentally, in the 21st century, we're now and I think people can't compute this. We are a quarter of the way through the 21st century. We are in the digital age. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. Things have changed. Technology's changed. It's a very different society. But too many people, mental capacity, it's easier to align with left and right wing politics than to accept you are capitalist. Because to operate in today's world, you have to be.
Yeah, even China's not capitalist. Even China's sucking on the lifeblood of capitalism. My point with capitalism is this. A capitalist is someone who wants to strive to be the best they can be, whether it's through a
entrepreneurship,
start their own business. The difference between a capitalist and a corporatist, the capitalist can't afford to pay a lobbyist to affect a government. Now, the trouble is with Davos, Davos is really like a glorified international chamber of trade. And I'm sure when James Dyson went to Davos, it wasn't for anything unscrupulous. But then these people are rich and powerful. They are the top echelon of a chamber of trade. Then, unfortunately, it attracts everyone. And then what happens, the normal person computes the World Economic Forum as all baddies, let's call it, the baddies. And they are, the terrible people. They just want full control. They want a slave force. I know exactly what they want. But having said that, within that, there will be people like a guy with a communications business in Africa who's been hit hard by Boko Haram, which is an Islamic State set of extremists that nearly crippled his business. He lives in London. He's now a reform backer. But it's not because he's not dodging.
But people won't look at that. What they'll do is they'll be like, he was on the board of the World Economic Forum. He's obviously part of the problem. And now Reform are taking him on, so they're WEF.
Yeah.
And people make this distinction so quickly because they...
Because they obviously people are busy, they're living their own lives, they're doing other things. I'm doing this all the time. But I can differentiate between the difference. It's like saying that... Reform's been infiltrated by Islam because of Razia Youssef and two Muslim
it's shocking, isn't it?
The two Muslim backers came from the Tory party. They were there anyway. Yeah. And then you look at, if you're bothered about Islam, you better look at Labour because they've got 500 Islamic councillors, they've got 25 Islamic MPs, and they've got 700 Muslims working in the Home Office, dealing with immigration.
We stretch that out to the Libs and Greens. The Greens, crikey. Some of the stuff they've been... I don't even know who they are anymore.
No.
I could always get on board with the Green Party when they were environmentalists. And they're not environmentalists now. They're activism. They're protest activist party. It's
unbelievable. They invited me to stand as a candidate several years ago, round about Brexit. I mean, when I say that's how desperate they are, I mean, the reason I say that is not because I'm a bad person, but I think, hang on, you're the Green Party, but you'd have me. And this woman said, well, yes, because we're desperate for candidates. I did, but I don't agree with a lot of what you agree with. I believe in getting plastic out the sea and being better with animals. I believe in less single-use plastics. I believe in a lot of ecological sensibilities, but I don't believe a windmill with a concrete base whose structural carbon footprint is greater than what it will achieve.
Do you know the calculator? I don't want anyone to quote me on this. I'm taking it off the top of my head. But to construct a windmill with with everything you say, the concrete, the steel reinforcing, the digger driver, the diggers that have to come in, the environment they have to destroy to build them, it would take something like 2.5 years to offset the carbon just made for that.
Yeah.
Let alone in that time, they'll be paying the power companies to shut them down because they can't store the electric off them. So the cost is astronomical. And I know what I was going to talk about earlier. It was the moderate voter. It was the people sitting on the fence. It's the core of where we sit in this kind of echo chamber of people and their belief system in who actually follows it. But the problem is you've got all these teachers, accountants, doctors, nurses, fire officers. You've got all these people walking around in normal society. They're not looking at the things we're looking at. And most people probably listening to this aren't looking at the things we're looking at. They're not seeing, and I don't mean to disrespect people when I say this, because people don't have the time, and they've had that time taken away from them by consecutive governments forcing people into second jobs. And I think when you look at people like the Green Party, if you were a Green supporter 10 to 15 years ago, how can you still support them now? Because they're not environmentalist, because they support net zero, which is ultra capitalism.
Yeah.
By definition.
1.5 trillion dollar a year industry. I mean, that just amasses. How can you be an environmentalist and become a multi-millionaire through subsidies? I don't understand that. How does that even get created? Because whatever multi-millions you've created, that multi-millions could have gone into something better for the planet, for sure. So I don't agree with it. And unfortunately, a lot of the science is just opinion. And a scientist said to me, well, I've done an awful lot of studies, June. He said, and normally when people come to us, they come to us with the result they want to achieve and we make the science fit. He actually admitted it. So unfortunately, we're in this... we're in the end of days of one era of politics, and a lot of people haven't cottoned onto it. And the only way for Britain, and this is why the councils are so important. Think of the termites nibbling away at the wooden joist. That's what Reform are doing. They're nibbling away at the wooden joist till all of a sudden there's people sitting at the dining table are going to think, they're going to fall through the floor and think there's no food left because we can't sit at the table anymore. Someone's taking it all away from us. That's what they're trying to do. And it will be they've got 900 and odd councillors now. They control, I think, 10 or 12. I won't be accurate.
It's 5,000 seats up next year as well, isn't it? 5,000.
Yeah. And 1,900 of them are in London. And Keir Starmer is desperate to reshuffle and cancel a few elections. We'll have to watch to see what he does. But the thing about this is there's 450 branches now. There's 7 area managers. There's 2,900 volunteers. And believe it or not, there are postmen actually taking leaflets out with their post that aren't necessarily activists. They're prepared to do it to help Reform get known. And these are...
But that's what people don't understand about a political party, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that grassroots, working class people paying their 25 quid. Not even necessarily paying you 25 quid, just becoming a volunteer for it, because you don't have to pay you 25 quid, but you can be involved and be doing things to help the party. That is, again, just being someone that delivers some leaflets out.
People to have the spare room floor to ceiling in leaflet boxes. People prepared to go out on a winter's night and go to a meeting to talk about policy. These are ordinary people. This isn't about Nigel Farage anymore. This is about people wanting change, all of us. And it's not...
He'll be the head of the top of it. Yes. But I think what people don't understand is it's about the influence of the 10,000 people that sit under it to prop him up at it.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. For me, I think Labour entirely, because it's such an established party. with the think tanks, with the civil service, with the councils. They're all the same mindset. They're this globalist mindset that's been rooted through that party. They have so many people in their meat grinder that if you don't... and we've seen this. We saw this 2 weeks after they came in. Look what they did to Ian Burns, Zara Sultana. Came in, they kicked off about the two-child benefit cap, and what did Starmer do? Straight away, chalked them off. They lost the whip. Didn't necessarily kick them out of the party, but didn't give them a voice in the party, removed their voice out of the party and said, right, fine, if you're not going to toe the line of us, you're not part of us, because we'll get someone else in. We'll just get someone else in who's already manufactured in the background. And I don't think people understand that Reform are building that, but in their own narrative, in their own shape, which I think is a sovereign national identity to go against globalism, even though people want to accuse them of being part of the WEF. And what we need to remove is that conservative liberal establishment rule for 300 years.
The other thing, I'm going to interrupt you there, Bruce, because
no, you're right.
The other thing we need to remember when people say, oh, it's Nigel Farage, just part of the establishment, it's part of the Uni Party. Look at it like this. There you are, you're the Uni Party, you're the globalists. You've got your Prime Minister, he's sat in number 10, you've got him now, you've got Keir Starmer. You've already got the civil service. You've got all the permanent undersecretaries, or most of them. You've got the WEF right behind you. You've got Carney in Canada. You've got Jacinda Ardern working with Prince William. You've got the European Union. You're sorted. You've got all your people in place. Why would they need to resurrect a man like Nigel Farage, bring him back to politics? You know, people say you can't trust me, he's been paid off. The best thing you can do if you want to keep control is pay Nigel Farage off before he comes back to politics and say, look,
and just like, go away.
£20 million, bugger off.
Yeah.
The last thing we want is you stirring the apple cart up. That's when you pay Nigel Farage off before he comes back, because there's absolutely no use to globalisation because why would they're not listening to us? They don't care what we do. All they want to do is taxes. Why would they suddenly say, well, what we'll do for these people we have no time for, we'll look right down on them. What we'll do, we'll give them something to vote for. Why? You've already won. If it wasn't for Farage coming back, we are already sunk. It's that simple. So you don't need to pay him to come back to politics. The sensible thing to do, if you are a global dominating nut job, is to pay him
to stay away.
To stay away. Definitely.
Yeah, that will give you enough money. Don't create this political party. And I think what's happened is they potentially had the opportunity to do that. He told them to do one because I do think he lives on principle. I think people accuse him of not having principles and not having a vision. I think he's always had one. His vision has always been for a sovereign United Kingdom. He's seen it slip away into the EU. Yeah. We all know that under Thatcher, when she signed us into the EEC, she did not envision... If she'd have been around now, she'd never allow... And there's a lot of people criticise her with the privatisation stuff. There's a lot of devout Labour supporters who will never turn Tory simply because of her, because of the miners' strikes. However... I don't believe she was ever given the opportunity. Kind of going back to what we said about Rishi, I think if Rishi had stayed in for another 5 years and took the mindset prior to the general election, I think if it had been threatened with that general election and got re-elected, you'd have seen a very different Rishi Sunak. I think you'd have seen one that then became more pro-UK rather than pro-globalism. Kind of on the fence on that, whether he would or wouldn't. However, if Thatcher had remained in power during the point of privatisation coming in, the problem with it is I think she trusted privatisation for the companies to self-regulate. And they did towards greed, which is what happened. And I think had she remained in power, she'd have never allowed it to happen.
No.
Because then a lot of people will turn around and say, she caused privatisation, she caused all the problems, when effectively they corrected all the issues left by Labour from the winter of discontent in the 70s and 80s, left the country in an absolute dire state. 3-day working weeks, wasn't it? Blackouts, people had nothing. I think inflation was the highest it's ever been in history.
Bin strikes.
Yeah, and I think she left power, didn't she? And then... what do we have? Major for 5 years.
But we only brought Major in to sign the Maastricht Treaty. She wouldn't sign the Maastricht Treaty, so they nobbled her. Yeah. So
they got their man in, didn't they? They got their man in. Yeah. Because I think she was staunch sovereign. Yeah. She was against it. Got their man in who would sign up to it. He weren't quite cutting it. Now let's pivot to Blair for the globalism. Yeah.
And people don't realise, but John Major has a very powerful and influential role with the two young princes, Harry and William. He's like a guardian or godfather. How did this man, this grey man that nobody really knew about till Edwina did a kiss and tell on him, how did he get
Because he
into
did
that
come out of
position?
nowhere, didn't he? He did
It's
sort
like
of
you've got the
slipped
king. The
his
king
way
is
in there,
wet
didn't
through
he?
and through. You've got Keir Starmer number 10, who's openly told the world he prefers to deal with Davos. So the last thing this cabal needs is Nigel Farage. You can give a monkey about Nigel Farage. They've slipped up, as you say, they've probably offered it him beforehand and he's turned them down. I mean, there's some wild stories put about, sadly, from an ex-MP who is a really good guy on some things, that, Nigel Farage has been forced back into politics. No, he hasn't. Nigel Farage could make money quite easily by going to America and going to somewhere like Newsmax.
He could just speak at CPACs for the next 10 years, couldn't he?
Yeah. There's plenty of opportunities for him just to be in it for the money. He's in it to make a difference. He's given it his best shot. And he's created something outstanding. I've never known. When have you ever seen council elections discussed so much on national television?
Oh, never. Honestly, Jim, I wouldn't say I've been politically active for about 5 or 6 years. Obviously, paid attention to it throughout my 30s and stuff. And I remember the last Labour government. I was 21 years old when they got into power. When they left power, I was 34. Sorry. Then obviously saw the next stint of the Conservatives. So throughout my young and middle-aged life, I've seen both these governments. But I've also been paying attention to Farage. I voted UKIP in 2010, I think, when he was part of them. And I've seen his kickback to it. And I've always been anti-establishment. I've always seen these for what they are.
Yeah.
And obviously you go and study political history. You go and see the spin around of them too over 100 years. You start to see where it's going. And I agree with you. I think he's always maintained his course. Media will do what media do. But I think people need to... I think people are wising up to what the mainstream media is. That's the difference. I think that's making the difference.
And another thing
because of people like us as well, I think. And I think they underestimate us. I think they underestimate what we do because we've become a voice. It's kind of like we are part of the party, but we're not, because we represent in the working class what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And we funnel them towards, look, this is the reality of what the situation is. This is how big it is.
It's huge.
Wrexham are sitting there ready to come into the Premiership and knock these lot out off the top spot.
Yeah.
You're not going to do much good voting for Forest Green in this one.
And this is why I've nothing against the people, but I was bitterly disappointed when Ben Habib, during the by-election for Runcorn, where Sarah Porchin was standing, and I did some research. I've got a lot of followers from Runcorn, ironically, and a lot of them didn't know her, but some of them who did know her said that she was a really fair magistrate. She'd done some good stuff. And
she has got a good history, actually, yeah.
Yeah, and she, again, was a disillusioned Tory. Porchins used to have a small plant business. You know, they did dumper trucks and things. And look at her, how valuable she's become. But Ben sat down and did a video and actually said, don't vote for Sarah Porchin in Runcorn. I couldn't believe it when he did it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You've got absolutely nothing to offer at this point in your life. You've walked away from the party that can do something. You haven't actually started your own party yet. And you've nothing to offer. You've no candidate. It's not like he was punting his own candidate out. And I thought, bloody hell, Labour have a 14,500 advantage here in Runcorn. So therefore, this is going to be a tough one for an ex-Tory.
And she turned it round.
And he's telling people to use it as a protest vote. For what? What have you got to protest about? Reform haven't had a chance to do anything wrong to you yet. They haven't had a position of power. And
the funny thing, that's the thing, June. I think
that's where that was enough. That is not fighting for your country. Sorry, you can dress it up any way you want. That is not fighting for your country. Fighting for your country is shit. They've put you see, if I was Rupert Lowe, even though I'd fallen out or didn't want Nigel Farage and I'd gone off him, I would still have helped those councillors at council election time because I would have believed in the cause. Because as you say, Bruce, it's bloody big what we're trying to do. It's huge. A huge.
Well, I always try and break it down in football terms. So I always say that I try and encourage people to not treat political parties like a football team. I'm a Newcastle United supporter. I have been for 35 years. You'll never see me say a bad thing about Newcastle United because they're my team. But sport's very different to politics. However, I do believe people should treat political parties like their football team or their Formula One or whatever. You don't stop supporting your football team because you don't like the manager. Or you don't like the right back they signed because he's not playing well. You don't stop supporting them because of an individual inside he's a crap midfielder. I don't know why they bothered signing him. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to go to Liverpool now as an ex-Everton supporter. You don't do that, do you? You wouldn't. And this is what annoys me and frustrates me about these people jumping to Advance UK. They've got nothing. They never really did anything inside reform. And you've got people coming out in media and in positions saying like, yeah, reform, blah, blah, blah. They don't really represent my views anymore. I'm going to go to Advance UK and do what? Nothing. They're going to achieve nothing. And if they do, they need to have about 3 or 4 million quid invested in them. Where's that coming from? Who of you who are all saying you're going to Advance UK and then on the same breath saying, I've got no interest in politics in standing as a councillor or an MP. So you've got no one who's joining you and beating the drum prepared to actually stand for you. Where's your policy? What's your mandate on education, defence? And this is the thing. It's a protest vote up against.
Where's your army of people that are going to support you going out, knocking on doors?
I've got 30,000 members, June.
Where are they? Where are
Reform
they?
have got 260,000 members and are struggling to fill 5,000 council seats.
Yeah, exactly. That says it all.
Says it all.
The thing is, this is the fight of our lives. This is bigger than Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe and me and you. It's bigger than anyone.
And Farage. And
Farage. And that's what Gawain Towler says. This is why I warm to Gawain so much. I'm in a WhatsApp group with him that I started, and there's quite a few Tories in there. Ben was in it, but he left after we had a difference of opinion. We didn't argue. It was just a bit rude to me, but I took it on the chin. He tried to explain what he was doing, and I said, but it's not going to work because there isn't time. There isn't time. The best thing you can do, Ben, is stick with it, get yourself a seat, then we have someone as good as you in Parliament. You know, because eventually
and then sort it out after the fact. And I think people don't understand that. We've got to use the tool available. We have been given a sledgehammer to smash down a solid metal wall, and they're using a toothpick at the minute. Yeah. We've at least got a sledgehammer. Yeah, we've at least got a sledgehammer. It's going to be hard, but if we hit that wall hard enough, we can put a massive dent in it and potentially knock the whole thing over.
I've said it to people who were leaders of other small parties, and I've said, look, why don't you just jump on the bandwagon, wear the bloody rosette, get the advantage of being in a party that's getting mainstream media coverage.
Break that establishment.
Yeah, get in, get your seat, because basically Heritage Party, Time Party, ADF Party, UKIP,
Reclaim,
Reclaim, they all want the same thing. So why don't you just wear the badge to make sure you get in and get a seat, and then you can continue with your own format of policy and your political beliefs just under a different badge to get you going. Then if after 12 or 18 months you want to pull away and say, I'm going to stand as an independent, at least we've got someone in who's on our side of the fence. Do you know
what? Going back to the football reference, June, how many professional sportsmen do we see leave a club they love to go to a club to win trophies? It's again the same analogy.
Exactly.
People you see people that support Liverpool their entire life. They play for Liverpool. And then they move to Real Madrid because Real Madrid can win them a Champions League. Real Madrid is going to give them more chance of getting in a World Cup. And you can always use that sport team. It's team play, and it resonates through every sport. It does work in that sense in politics. However, I also think people should not, like, for example, I know you'll be the same. I fully believe you'll be the same as me. My loyalty is to reform, to use them as a tool to break this system. And I hope they come through, and I want to be a part of it to help influence where they go in the future, to hold them to account for, because that's what membership's about. Membership and public support is about holding them to account, not running away when they don't do what you say. It's making sure you hold them to account. Yeah. That's what you should be doing. You should be supporting your team, making sure they're going down the right path, and jumping ship and going somewhere else that isn't going to do anything is not doing any good at all. And I think you stick with it. And don't get me wrong, if they do, which I think they will, get into power and they shift and change, I'll be the first person that puts a video out the next day and says,
Me too.
call them out.
I'm not
and
even
call
a
them out.
member. I'm not even a member, so I can be free.
Yeah.
And as I said, during lockdown, I slagged them off as much as I did all the other small parties because I was angry with them. I put a lot of effort in since 2017 trying to get them to work together, saying, look, you're all going nowhere, band together, a loose alliance. To be fair, at that point, Ben was very proactive with that. He was very, that was a good idea. But none of them would. None of them will let go of that, well, I'm the leader and the people want me.
Bit of ego, isn't it?
Well, yeah, what is that about, please?
Yeah.
So the thing is, we are fighting communism, and the communists, you can call it what you want, stakeholder capitalism, give it a new fancy title. It's the same thing. The people lose power, so whatever you want to label it up as, and they've won. They're in. The Uni Party were taking us there on a horse and cart, and Keir Starmer's got himself a Formula One. That's how we're going there now. And this is a huge fight. It's bigger than whether you like me or you want to call me names, because I support something I can see can work. And it's bigger than Gawain. And as Gawain said, he's not loyal to Nigel. I said, oh, you're very loyal to Nigel. I said once in a phone call. He said, I'm not actually. I'm loyal to the cause, and Nigel's the only one that's fighting for the cause. And that's why he's loyal. And I'm really
and that's
glad.
where my loyalty lies as well,
Yeah,
to the cause and to the realisation of what needs to happen. And we've got to use the best tool available.
Yeah, there are going to be working class kids in towns across the country that were like me, that sat there in that classroom thinking, what, there must be something better than this. There's got to be something, being told to either go and train as a nurse, but you're probably not clever enough, train as this, or go and work as a mental health nurse, or go in the Ordnance Survey factory. And I remember saying to, I went, what? You're actually telling me to go into a factory? You're actually saying that to me? I won't be working in any factory. And I remember probably being a bit brash, and he said, and what do you think you're going to do? I said, I'm going to drive a Porsche before I'm 30. I'm going to work for myself, and I'm going to do something where I can take my dog to work. And he went, good luck. And I did. I did all those things.
And I'll tell you what, it's funny you say that. I think I had the same kind of careers advice. We didn't really get careers advice back then. I left school in 1993 and at 16 years old, and I didn't get any career advice back then. Christ, the funny thing is back then, I'm probably the same for you. The top 5% out of my year went to... You were elite if you went to university. Now it's 70%.
2 people went to university.
2 people in your year. Yeah, I think it was about 5 out of mine.
The sixth form only had 35 people in it. There was 35 people that stayed on at school till they were 18. And we were a good school, actually. We were a church school.
And 2 of them went on to university?
2. 2 of them,
Wow.
one went into his own father's business, I think. And 2 went to university. That was what we got. And I left and I trained to be a GPO telephonist, number please, emergency with service, because I thought, well, if I'm GPO trained, I can work on any switchboard and I can go and work for other companies. And that's what I did. My background was being on the phone. That's why I'm quite good at voices. I can tell when someone's mood changes on the phone because I think I can hear it in their voice. I've spent that much time on the phone. And then when I was 20, I went into advertising and worked for a local paper and went around seeing loads of businesses, and I used to do their advertising. I was quite good at it. And that's the other thing with blogging. People put a blog out and say this XYZ once, and I keep saying, you need to say it again and again. Why do L'Oreal keep punting the same thing out? You're worth it, you're worth it. Because you need to keep repeating the message. So I probably repeat my message a lot using different...
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Because people have different habits watching social media. They might not log on till Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And the last thing, the kiss of death to me for social media, unless you're Dan Wotton, unless you're doing a proper news channel every night, is going live. Nobody's interested. If you go live, nobody's bothered because they can pick up what you've said 2 days later. I mean, I have people sending me videos saying, June, watch this before they take it down. And I'll look at it, I'll go, it's me.
I've had that. I've had people send me a video of myself, and I'm like, or I've had people turn around where I've done a video on the Fabian Society, an hour-long video on the Fabian Society, and 2 weeks later they'll message me and say, "Oh, Bruce, have you heard about the Fabian Society? Look what this person posted." And I'm like, I did a video too. It's like on every platform. Like I advertised it for a week. Have you not? But do you know what my criticism is, June? I think what we need to do is get people looking. That's the biggest task for me. And what I've discovered recently on my Facebook, obviously I had my TikTok platform. I struggled to get going on X. You know, that's where me and you first spoke, wasn't it, on X? I really struggled to get my X going. Could not do anything on it. Just did not ever click and pick up. It has now a little bit. It's moving along better now. On my Facebook, I think they changed, and I dropped some of my reels on Facebook, and then they just exploded. And I jumped to like 50,000 followers very, very quickly. And so many people as well that I think found me on Facebook and were like, "I've never seen you before." And then they're like, "Really? You've been doing this for 3 years on TikTok?" I was like, "Yes, I've been doing it since 2022. Like, I've got 3,000 videos on there. I've never seen you before." And I'm like, and then of course you then have to start repeating all the videos you've done for 3 years, because it's like, right, they need to be re-educated. So you're just churning the same thing out. But I want to say, we're about an hour and 10 minutes in now. So what I want to do, I think we'll do a slight wrap up here, but I know we've got another episode here, June, 100%. We can carry this on. There's so much more to talk about. Yeah. But let's just leave it with this for now. General election. What's your prediction? When?
I think it'll be early, late 27.
Late 27.
Late 27. But I'm not right.
Keir Starmer, how long?
I don't know, because the talent pool's dry, isn't it? I don't know about that, but I will predict that it will be an extraordinary turnout, be like Brexit, and people who do not follow politics will decide the fate of this country, and what they'll decide is that Nigel Farage should have a go. I think they'll give it to him, because I think they've just got fed up of everything else. The Tories, they won't trust... You see, the thing is, the red wall's being built again, but it's being painted turquoise. He's going to get all those Labour voters that are rational and moral and not far left and not champagne socialists, the ones that wonder where the bloody hell the Labour Party's gone to.
Where's my money gone? Why is my mortgage so high?
Yeah, and he's going to win. People think that President Trump won because people like Elon Musk backed him, and he did, of course. But he didn't win because of that. He won because people were sick of having less money than the year before, and less money than the year before that, and the year before that under Biden.
And being constantly lied to, constantly gaslit. And now they've got... And this is the funny thing, isn't it, June, when we think about it? For the last 30 years, everyone's been on a decline down. Yes, we can blame COVID. Yes, we can blame wars, Ukraine and Russia and whatever nonsense they make up about the energy prices, which we 4 times higher than any other country in the world now. So we all know that's nonsense. It's just profiteering. It's been proven. It's been ever decreasing decline, ever increasing national debt. None of them have done anything about it. And I think the general public are at the precipice now of something's got to change.
Yeah.
And I think what hit hardest the most was we went from a very defined low class, middle class, upper class to now rich and poor. And it's the top 10% that are the rich. Everybody else now sits in a poor bracket. And if you're at the top end of that poor bracket, it means you're middle class, old middle class, just sitting above water, able to afford a holiday and some nice presents for your kids. Most other people are sacrificing something to be able to do that now.
And I think the other thing, anybody that's built anything up, that owns their own home, buys a car regularly, books holidays, as you say, can afford a few treats in life, they are sitting here. I'm sat here like a sitting duck, knowing full well that what I've built up so that I can have a comfortable latter life, later in life.
They'll have it.
They're going to take it off me. Even to the point of taxing.
Because they want to prevent the wealth pass down, don't they? They don't want the next generation to inherit the wealth.
No.
Because it sets them up, doesn't it? They want people in that, not desperation, but they want people treading water, don't they? They don't want people, they don't want aspiration, I think. Aspiration and entrepreneurship.
Yep.
They just want to crush it.
That's why Zia Youssef is in reform because he's an entrepreneur. And
I
I've
love
spoken
him.
to him about this.
I
think it's
do
great.
genuinely. If people really listen to him and his business acumen and his tech acumen, he's unbelievable.
I mean, the
He's such an
feel
asset.
factor he's brought to that Doge with the people he's introduced that are all working as volunteers, multimillionaires working as volunteers to try and
Yeah,
change Britain so that Britain has a chance, so that Britain attracts entrepreneurs, attracts people to invest in Britain. If you're investing in Britain, you're investing in its people because you need them to work in your enterprise. That's why he's in. It's nothing to do with religion. The party
yeah.
to watch if you're worried about the way it's going with religion is Labour, I'm afraid. That they're the ones that host the most dreadful.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely superb, my darling. And I'm pretty sure we'll get this out. And I think people are going to want episode 2.
Well,
I
I've
think we
really
should do an
enjoyed it. I'm
episode
really
2.
glad I came across you. I saw you first on Facebook, and then I saw you on Dan Wotton, and I thought he's making complete rational sense. And then I reached out on Twitter, and I'm really, really glad I did.
Thank you very much, my darling. And same to you. Like I said, the funny thing is, what you don't know, guys, is I've actually been following June on TikTok for a long time, and she just told me today before the thing, it's not even her. Someone's been stealing all her videos. So if you follow June on TikTok, it's not June. It's some content thief, which I despise, by the way. Content thief taking her stuff. Follow her only on Facebook and give her full support.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce.